grammar goodies. Welcome back into General Grammar. My name is Mr. Goodie Grammar, and I'm here to provide you with all your English grammar needs. Let's get it started. But before we begin, make sure to hit the subscribe button and download the free guided notes in the description box below. The guided notes and episodes have matching badges to indicate each section, so you can follow along with ease. Also, during each episode, underline any text that appears in red or bold font to identify key words and concepts. It's the shopping list that your mom always forgot to take to the grocery store. Whoa! Okay. If you're missing your ex and you feel dependent on their love, then today's episode is perfect for you, right? But hold up! Before we get started talking about being dependent, let's go ahead and jump into a basket breaker.
Uh-oh.
For this week's basket breaker question, it's, what are you most dependent on? What do you rely on the most? What did you choose? The answer to this question is individualistic. I put water because I depend on it to live. Help me, for I am parched and need H2O to survive.
Water.
I hope you picked something amazing. Go ahead and put it into the comments section. I want to know what you're dependent on. You know what I'm also dependent on? Some radioactive waste.
3, 2, 1.
You might be asking yourself, Mr. Goodie Grammar, why are you talking about being dependent on stuff? I have an answer for you right away. We just got a shipment in, and it's all about dependent clauses! Yeah!
Oh my gosh!
Let me go ahead and tell you all about it. First off, a dependent clause is not another name for a disempowered Santa Claus. Instead of ho ho ho, it's no no no. In fact, a dependent clause is a clause that is not capable of standing on its own. It depends on the remainder of the sentence for its meaning. More specifically, a dependent clause may contain a subject and a verb, but it begins a thought and doesn't finish it. Let's go ahead and look at some examples. We have, because Amy left the iron on, and when the firemen arrived at the dorm. Both of these are examples of dependent clauses. But why? One, they don't make sense on their own. They leave you asking, okay, because the iron was left on, what happened? Or when the firemen arrived at the dorm, what happened next? We don't know. Therefore, these clauses are dependent on whatever comes next in order to make sense. Don't burn down the home. Also, both of these clauses start with something called a subordinating conjunction. And these conjunctions, when put at the start of our clauses, actually create dependent clauses. Let's go ahead and dig into it a little bit more. When it comes to dependent clauses, it's actually very common that they start with subordinating conjunctions. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of examples of subordinating conjunctions. Some common examples of subordinating conjunctions are after, although, as, because, even though, until, when, while, so that. There's so many subordinating conjunctions. Whoa! And the purpose behind using these subordinating conjunctions are not to just create dependent clauses. Actually, what they do is indicate the relationship between a dependent clause and the independent clause that it's attached to. Example, if we make this sale, we can own a spider monkey. In this example, the sentence starts with the subordinating conjunction, if. In order to create that dependent clause, if we make this sale. This dependent clause is followed by an independent clause. We can own a spider monkey. That subordinating conjunction, if, shows a relationship between that dependent clause and the independent clause. If this, then this. If we make this sale, then we can buy a spider monkey. So as you can see, the if helps create that dependent clause. Keep in mind, we'll get more into how to form something called complex sentences in the next episode. For right now, what I want you to pay attention to is the formation of dependent clauses. We'll talk about how they play into sentence structures a little bit later. A really cool thing about subordinating conjunctions is that if you put them at the beginning of an independent clause, it actually makes that independent clause into a dependent clause. Let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. Let's say that we have the independent clause, he is cool. But we want to go ahead and turn that independent clause into a dependent clause. So what we could do is throw the subordinating conjunction because in front of that independent clause. So it turns into the dependent clause because he is cool. Then we would need to follow it up with another independent clause for that to make sense. Because he is cool, what? Again, by throwing a subordinating conjunction to the front of an independent clause, you actually turn it into a dependent clause. Example, while he was sitting in the corner, he made friends with a taciturn mouse. It's like the off Broadway version of Ratatouille, except for without the cooking. I'm hungry. In this example, the sentence starts with the dependent clause, while he was sitting in the corner. This is a dependent clause because it starts with the subordinating conjunction, while. And then it builds into the independent clause, he made friends with a taciturn mouse. Once again, you're seeing how that dependent clause helps show the relationship to the independent clause. While this is going on, this happened. So while he was sitting in the corner, he made friends with a taciturn mouse. Also, to break it down a little bit more, let's say that we had two independent clauses here. Let's take away that subordinating conjunction, while, for a second. Let's say we had, he was sitting in the corner. He made friends with a taciturn mouse. So we have two independent clauses, joined together with a comma, which we know doesn't work. Instead of putting a fanboy in order to link them together, we can use that subordinating conjunction to help switch up our sentence structure. So we can have, while he was sitting in the corner, to turn that first independent clause into a dependent clause, to have a clearer relationship. While this is going on, this occurred. While he was sitting in the corner, he made friends with a taciturn mouse. Sounds a lot better. Now that we've really been guzzling up some dependent clauses, I think it's time to ask for some employee assistance.
We need some employee assistance.
In this section, I'm going to go ahead and read off a couple of sentences. It's up to you to circle the subordinating conjunctions in each sentence. Also, I want you to go ahead and underline the dependent clauses. Keep in mind, dependent clauses usually start with a subordinating conjunction. And the dependent clause usually ends wherever you have a punctuation mark, like a comma. Example, wherever you go, I will wait for you. In this example, it starts with the subordinating conjunction, wherever. And it goes to our comma, our punctuation mark, in order to form a whole dependent clause. So our dependent clause ends up being wherever you go. And what follows that comma and that whole dependent clause is the independent clause, I will wait for you. I'm not waiting for my ex. Crazy! Crazy! My ex is crazy! Example. When Santa Claus woke up in a bathtub full of ice, he could not remember the night before. Having too much milk and cookies there, eh, Santa? Why are we trolling Santa so much in this episode? Huh, I guess I'm on the naughty list. No. In this example, the dependent clause starts with the subordinating conjunction, when. And it goes all the way till that punctuation mark, the comma, in order to form the dependent clause, when Santa Claus woke up in a bathtub full of ice. Then that dependent clause, after the comma, is followed by an independent clause. He could not remember the night before. We're seeing that when helps create the context, the relationship between the dependent and the independent clause. When Santa woke up, this occurred, which was he could not remember the night before. Been there. In this dependent clause, it does have a subject and a verb, but since it has a subordinating conjunction that starts it, it creates an incomplete thought, therefore making it a dependent clause. I guess Santa can't be too dependent on his memory. I'm not proud of that one either. Example. While giving a snow yeti a back wax, I realized that I'm allergic to fur. Achoo! No! Hives! 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 Please! Here, you can see that the dependent clause starts with the subordinating conjunction, while. And then it leads into the rest of the dependent clause, while giving a snow yeti a back wax, all the way up till that comma. And it's followed by that independent clause, I realize that I'm allergic to fur. Once again, that subordinating conjunction is setting the scene for us. While this is going on, I realize this. And that's what makes dependent clauses and subordinating conjunctions super effective. It really helps clarify the relationship between the two clauses to help create better flow and clarity. Example. While his kids were at school, he played in the ping pong league. Bring it on! For this example, we're seeing that it starts with, the subordinating conjunction, wow. And that dependent clause goes all the way until that comma. While his kids were at school. That's our dependent clause. Followed by that independent clause, he played in a ping pong league. Sounds like fun. Little Jimmy's missing out. Example. He played in a ping pong league while his kids were at school. Don't be tricked up with this example. It does start with an independent clause. He played in a ping pong league. Then we're seeing that subordinating conjunction, while. And that starts our dependent clause. So from while all the way to that period, so while his kids were at school, is our dependent clause. Keep in mind, we can mix and match where our dependent and independent clauses go. But we'll go ahead and clarify that a little bit more in the next episode about complex sentences. For now, what I want you to keep in mind is identifying the subordinating conjunctions, getting used to them. familiarizing yourself with different ones because there are a copious amount of subordinating conjunctions. Just ask yourself, does this word help create an incomplete thought? If yes, it's most likely a subordinating conjunction, and it's most likely a dependent clause. Grammar goodies. I know you got this down super well. However, I think it's time that I go ahead and check you in the aisle. That's right. I want to go ahead and do an aisle check.
Let's go.
For this week's aisle check, I want you to go ahead and answer the following question. It's going to cause you to reflect, to dig deep into your soul to pull out the answer. And of course, answer the question in complete sentences. You already know a few sentence structures, so no copping out on this. For this week's aisle check question, it's, why are subordinating conjunctions important? Really think about it. Why are they important to sentence structures or even writing in general? Why do we use subordinating conjunctions? And while you're doing that, let's go ahead and start checking out.
Can't get enough general grammar? Make sure to sign up on www.mrgoodiegrammar.com to become a grammar goodie. There, you'll receive extended episodes, guided notes, worksheets, PowerPoints, quizzes, and so much more. Also, follow us doing Wednesday live streams on Facebook, random dances on TikTok, and handing out grammar challenges on Instagram. With all these resources, you can't help but have the best time learning about English grammar. Whoa!
So, what'd you put for your answer? There are tons of things that you could have put down. I know we covered a lot of information, but I'm curious to see what you put. So make sure to go ahead and plop that into the comment section below. Put simply, subordinating conjunctions show the relationship between dependent clauses, which they usually start, and the independent clauses that go along with it. They're really incredible to use in order to not only switch up your sentence structure, but also really create a clear flow for your readers. Hopefully you got it down with a giant check mark. I'm going to go ahead and check that comment section to see what you came up with. Keep in mind, if you struggled with this, do not even worry about it. Remember, learning new concepts takes time and practice, and we're here to help you every step of the way. If you have any questions, make sure to go ahead and post it into the comment section as well. We'll be happy to help you out. Well, grammar goodies, that's all for today. I have to go ahead and give Miss Tori here a little bit of a relationship advice about not being so dependent on people. Stop it. Anyway, my name is Mr. Goodie Grammar, and comma in to general grammar anytime. I'll see ya.